Assalamu alaikum, my dear students. Today we are going to talk about advantages, disadvantages, and then contrivances of self pollination. First of all, let's talk about advantages of self pollination. There are different advantages. We will talk about a few. The first one is it maintains parental characters or purity of the race is maintained indefinitely. Okay, so when the male and female gametes they have the same genetic constitution, obviously the offsprings that we are going to get, they will be very much similar to the parents. There will be no change in the characters of the offsprings. Self pollination, it is used to make pure lines. It is used to maintain pure lines for hybridization experiments. In hybridization experiments, in plant breeding programs, we use pure lines for hybridization, and these pure lines they can be obtained by repeated self pollinations. So self pollination is a way of having pure lines which can later on be used in hybridization experiments. The third one is the plant does not need to produce large number of pollen grains. Since the chances of pollen landing on the stigma are maximum, there is no need to produce a large number of pollen grains. Okay. The fourth one is the flowers do not develop devices for attracting the pollinators. Pollinators are used in case of cross pollination. Okay, in self pollination, the flowers they do not need to produce the devices. They do not need to consume energy to produce devices for attracting the pollinators. The fifth one is it ensures seed production as it is sure method of pollination. Since the probability of pollination it is very much high in case of self pollination, the chances of seed production it gets increased. Okay, that is why self pollination is used as a fail safe device for some flowers which are cross pollinated. In some cross pollinated flowers where the chances of pollination and the consequent chances of seed production are minimum, self pollination can be used in those cases so that their seed production chances get raised. And finally, self pollination eliminates some bad recessive characters. I will let you know how. For example, you are having two plants X and Y, they are having the same genetic constitution, that means they belong to the same parents. Okay, they are having the same genetic constitution, they are for example heterozygous, and when you will allow these plants to self pollinate, and after repeated self pollinations, some offsprings they will get this genotype. Okay, they are heterozygous. Now you will get a homozygous line, and this homozygous individual having both a sumale, they will not be able to survive because this a is able to express in absence of this capital A. They can only express when it has another sumale. In presence of this capital A, it will not be able to express. So this recessive allele is there, but it is only able to express in this condition. And when this recessive allele will express, it is deleterious effects will come into being. Okay, it will be able to express it is deleterious effects, and consequently the individual will die. इस individual की death हो जाएगी, and because of the death of this individual, the bad character, or you can say the bad recessive allele, it also gets eliminated from the population. So self pollination it is a way of removing the bad recessive characters or bad recessive alleles from the population. Now some disadvantages of self pollination. The first one is new useful characters are seldom introduced, or you can say new useful characters are not produced, because for the production of new characters there must be heterozygosity, there must be changes in genetic composition. Since the genes in case of self pollinated flowers they are maintained for generations, the chances of heterogeneity the chances of heterozygosity are reduced, and consequently the chances of new characters being formed, it gets reduced. The vigor and vitality of the race decreases with prolonged self-pollination. Self-pollination leads to a depression which is known as inbreeding depression. Because of repeated inbreeding, repeated self-pollination, it leads to a depression which is known as inbreeding depression, and this inbreeding depression, it reduces vigor and vitality of the plants. Then immunity to new diseases, it also decreases. The immunity to diseases, it gets decreased with repeated self pollinations, because there is no chance of recombination, gene recombination. There is no chance for evolution of new characters. Okay, and obviously the chances that the plants will be able to overcome, to resist the new diseases, it also gets decreased. Variability and hence adaptability to changed environments are reduced. We know that variability is a way of uh, it is a way to adapt to the changed environmental conditions. If you are having variability, you can adapt to different environmental conditions. Since variability is reduced in case of self-pollinated plants, the adaptability to changed environmental conditions, it also gets reduced. Okay, याद रखना, variability is reduced in case of self-pollinated plants. Their genetic variability is reduced, and when they are not genetically diverse, okay, they will not be able to adapt to changed environmental conditions. Now the methods which ensures self-pollination, or you can say the contrivances of self-pollination. There are different contrivances. We will talk about a few. The first one is bisexuality. Bisexuality means presence of both male and female reproductive organs in the same flower. When you have both male and female reproductive organs, obviously there are chances that self-pollination will happen. So bisexuality is one of the adaptations, it is one of the contrivances which promote self-pollination. Second one is homogamy. It is simultaneous maturity of male and female reproductive organs. When male and female reproductive organs will mature simultaneously, that means anthers will produce pollen grains, and at the same time stigma is receptive. There are maximum chances that this pollen grain will fall on the stigma and it will be able to germinate. Okay. Then third one is contact pollination. It means the pollen grains, they fall directly on stigma due to gravity, or direct contact with stigma due to mechanical growth. The pollen grains which are produced in anthers, and the anthers are at the top, obviously there are chances that because of gravity the pollen grains will land on the stigma, or in some cases there is close contact of stigma with this pollen there is close contact of stigma and the anthers because of the mechanical growth. The anthers and stigma, they grow very much close to each other. Okay, and this is known as contact pollination. Contact pollination means when both the anthers and the stigma, they grow close to each other, there are chances that self-pollination will happen. And then we have cleistogamy. Cleistogamy means flowers do not open. When they do not open, the chances that the outside pollen will cause pollination, they are negligible. Okay, and instead the pollen which is produced in the same flower, it pollinates the stigma. And finally, bud pollination. Bud pollination means pollination occurs before anthesis, before the opening of flower. That means flower is yet to open, but pollination has taken place. Okay, so these are some important contrivances of self-pollination. With this, we have completed this topic. See you soon with a new lesson. Till then, take care of yourself.